On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the Vice President of Public Service International, who also doubles as the General Secretary of Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, NASO. Comrade Peter Adeyemi brings us up to speed on the role of labor during the June 12 struggle, while also emphasizing the need for decent work across the globe. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
It's another ILC conference in Geneva, Switzerland, and of course, there are a lot of conversations ongoing as regards the welfare of workers and how decent work can be promoted. But particularly back at home, it's a week whereby we're celebrating Democracy Day, and we know that we had several people that actually struggled to ensure that June 12 became a possibility and reality. As a labor leader, what would you say was the role of labor during the June 12 struggle?
Yeah, thank you for this great opportunity. It's heartwarming, and the fact that we are celebrating Democracy Day, the massive role the labor movement played. And I think that that is why it remains very, very painful that up to now, labor doesn't seem to have benefited, at the level that we expected from the outcome. The politicians ultimately benefited from that struggle, and clearly, if you look at the situation with our Nigerian workers right now, it's really nothing to be happy about. I think that what we have gotten from that democratic struggle of June 12 has not been commensurate with what we put into it. There are a lot of people who are politicians today are benefiting from that massive struggle without playing a single role. Today they are eating fat about the labor work so hard. Today Nigerian workers are living from mouth to mouth. It's very unfortunate. Nigerian workers don't have anything to celebrate. Even though it's heartwarming that we are still practicing democracy in our country. At least we have tried as much as possible to keep the soldiers in their barracks. But I think that must be as a result of the resilience of Nigerian workers.
You served as a member of the Committee of Standards of Application at the International Labour Conference, which is ongoing. Can you bring us up to speed on what is the latest and what are the complaints that ILO has received so far? This
year, the 112th International Labour Conference Committee on Application of Standards received 24 complaints from different countries. Some of them, having to do with freedom of association, child labor, collective bargaining, and a whole lot of them. We have six complaints from 6 African countries. I have participated actively, and right from the beginning, most of these complaints centered around governments of these countries being very insensitive. Some of them, opposing to trade union rights. Some of them abuse of trade union rights. We have, refusal for trade union to survive, freedom of association, collective bargaining, and a whole lot of others. To me, there isn't any case that you can refer to as a star case or a very, very controversial case like we used to have. You have a tripartite, the government, the workers, and the employers. And in a number of countries, we have been able to ensure that we reach a point now where the reports are being compiled. The reports will be presented for adoption. That's the most dynamic and the most result-oriented committee work. And I know that there are other committees that are also on in this conference, Committee of Biological and others. So, but for the Committee of Application of Standards, it's been massive work.
With your wealth of experience being a labor leader and attending different conferences that has to promote the right of work, decent work and social justice, can you tell us the impact or the importance of the Committee of Standard of Application?
You know, the wrong perception of quite a number of labor leaders across the globe about the fact that the ILO has the power to sanction government. The DG spoke extensively on that the law that established the ILO does not give it that power to just sanction a country. Rather, there will be these persuasive measures of ensuring that they do not use force. And that is why in most of the work of the Committee on Application of Standards, you have various steps that are taken. Some is to send commission, some is to send technical committee to those countries where you have problem. And the job of those countries will not be about order, but rather it will be about persuasion to get some of those countries to toe the line of normalcy. But I think something that is very, very significant, which we must not, is that quite a number of countries does not even want them reported to the ILO. So the fact that the ILO is there also serves to a large extent as a check. By and large, ILO has succeeded substantially in the way it has conducted its affairs. And I also think that the bulk of how successful we are will be dependent about how the trade union itself is able to maneuver its role within their various countries. But clearly, the ILO has played a very significant role because the fact that politically it has some damaging effect when you say the trade union has taken either the employer or the government to the Committee on Application of Standards, and at that level the country will be highlighted, the country will be debated, the country will be discussed, in some cases discussed negatively, and that's discussing the government in bad light at the global level. Some very hard words are used, and so quite a number of countries that ratified various conventions are sensitive to the fact that they do not want to be so badly reported or highlighted at the level of this global organization that we call the International Labour Organization.
The chairman governing board during his presentation during the 112th International Labour Conference said that the right to strike, the decision on the right to strike or whether not to be able to strike as workers was not decided at the highest governing body level in ILO. Rather, they actually transmitted it to the International Court of Justice for further explanation. We know that we've had series of strike in Nigeria, and employers have said with the rate at which organized labor usually go on strike, they might actually have to evoke the no work, no pay policy. Owing to the fact that this National Labour Organization has not been able to provide information on whether workers do have the right to strike, especially those that are essential workers. How would you react to this?
So it's very simple and straightforward. For as long as injustice persists, for as long as insensitivity persists by those in government and the employers, so long the trade union will continue to go on strike. This debate has been on, even at the level of the ILO, for a while. And there has been a gang up of government and employers wanting to outlaw strike. But I'll tell you, it's going to be an effort in futility. For as long as injustice, for as long as insensitivity, for as long as employers of labor, either you are in the private sector or you are in the public sector, continue to, with impunity, deny workers their right to fair living wage, fair working environment, and all the rest of it. Strike will continue. Any effort to outlaw strike, it will be an effort in futility. It's like when you go and make a law that you are not likely to be able to implement. So they will try, they will continue to try. They are trying to remove the only potent weapon that the trade union uses to assert its right. For as long as they continue swimming in the ocean of those retrogressive actions, for as long as strike must continue. I think the only way, the only fairest way you can moderate, reduce strike is about ensuring that workers are fairly paid, their working conditions are just and fair, equitable, and they are allowed to work without discrimination. You don't trample on their right to belong to trade union, you don't trample on their right to survive. That's the only credible thing you can do. This debate will continue until thy kingdom come. It will not work.
The minimum wage negotiation, organized labor came up with a different figure from that of federal government and organized private sector. What do you think should be done at this time?
That has been the battle. That has been the war that Joe has fought all over. That thing is even the major thing that shot him into limelight. The position of the trade union, I think, is a clear attempt of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You divert all the electricity energy to one sector where you think is meant for the highly placed. You put it into, so you supply electricity to those you consider are the real people, the big people in the country. Then you use that diversion of power to the rich and the affluent, denying the poor people of light, and then you come sarcastically to come and talk about they pay more. How does that make sense? It makes sense for you to distribute evenly and charge people, and let, when people see light, with the prepaid meter, if 100 people see light, you get more money than you give 5 people light regularly, and those 5 people pay at one useless rate. Then you deny the mass of the people. It is politically insensitive. It doesn't make sense at all. I am ashamed that politicians are not weighing the fact that when people suffer a lot, forget about which agency is behind those suffering. It is they that are supposed to suffer. And maybe why our politicians in Nigeria are lucky is that most of the time, elections are not about voting. If the election is about voting, our politicians will be more sensitive about reactions of the populace to what a few elements will be saying about them. It's clearly unfortunate, but because most times these things is not about how much vote, it's just about manipulation, unfortunately.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.